Now that the fall of X is over, I want your opinion on it. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or was it eh? Please let me know. Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we now start our coverage of the fall of the House of X with number 1. So story starts off in the Old West. Not really. Cyclops is having a dream, and he's being drugged behind a man who obviously captured him, and he takes him to the town of Timely. Now, I know all you guys know what Timely means, right? As Victor Timely, he founded the town as Kang the Conqueror. Will we see him in this? Not in this book, but maybe we'll see him in the series. And then he walks by a fortune-telling machine that looks just like Destiny. He's taken to the courthouse, and the usual cast of characters in Orchis are the judges. Justice is swift and very unfair. He is immediately taken to the hangman gallows, dropped, but he just floats there because there's a woman with a bonnet on. I think that's called a bonnet, but she has red hair, so you know it's Jean. But now we cut to reality. He's in the paddy wagon. They still call it the paddy wagon? I'm calling it the paddy wagon, where he is handcuffed and blinded. As he gets out, we see that he is in Paris. So that's where his trial is going to take place. Orchis doesn't have the greatest kind of reputation right now in America because of the Uncanny Avengers, so they decided to move it to Paris. And if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about with the Uncanny Avengers, the card's right here, and the link to the playlist will be in the description. So now we take a quick flashback as you see Colossus and Wolverine do their patented and also ever famous fastball special. And if you don't know what the fastball special is, that is when Colossus takes Wolverine like a baseball and throws him at the enemy. And when you have a short, muscle-bound man with animated claws coming at you, you can imagine what happens to him. But now we cut to present day, and we're in the Paris tunnels, so you know what they came to do. And Colossus and Wolverine, while they take out Orchis agents, are having a discussion of what they should call their new move. So Colossus takes this Orchis agent that was trying to shoot him, which is stupid because he's pretty much made of steel right now, and he throws him as hard as he can at Wolverine and says, "What about the Pianta special?" So Wolverine slashes the hell out of this man, and I can just imagine what he looks like right now, and he goes awful. So Wolverine goes, "That's a terrible name, Pete. I thought you Russians were poets." And Colossus is like, "I'm not really feeling poetic right now." Wolverine goes, "I get it." So then Colossus goes, "Let's go liberate Cyclops." And then Wolverine is like, "Why don't we call it the Screwball special?" Colossus is like, "Why?" Wolverine's like, "Cause they're screwed." So now we cut back to Cyclops, and he's inside of an interrogation cell, and we see that Dr. Alia Gregor and Omega Sentinel walk in to talk to Cyclops. And Cyclops is like, "Dr. Gregor, you were actually on my mind. And let me tell you, this heifer is one-track minded." She goes, "Oh, have you been replaying the moment you made me a widow over and over again?" And yes, her husband did die. He sacrificed himself trying to stop the X-Men. But technically, he's not dead because he is Nimrod. I mean, the reason why Nimrod says those stupid things that he says is because of her dumb husband. He goes, "No, I don't remember leading the assault team to the mother mode that day," which he doesn't because when they brought him back to life, they didn't put that memory back in him. He goes, "No, I was thinking about more or less the cost of war." And she goes, "Some of us pay more than others." She needs to quit crying. I mean, he's still around to sell dumb dad jokes, like if they had kids. I don't think they had kids. Hopefully something that evil should never bear children. And Cyclops goes, "I know, grief is a heavy set of chains." And that's all Karen needed to hear because she's about to go off with a caramel macchiato. She's like, "Don't you dare." All Karens around the world starting to rejoice. "Let me tell you, because of our sacrifice, the last human has died because of mutant aggression. I am not having a hard time. Don't pretend to know me." And then Cyclops calls her on her. He's like, "Sorry, I thought I caught a whiff of bourbon on your morning coffee. It's a caramel macchiato, Scott. It's a caramel macchiato." So he goes, "So if not to discuss the war, then why are you here and why are you accompanied by Omega Sentinel?" And Omega Sentinel's like, "I was wondering the same thing, honestly." Karen. She didn't call her Karen. In my mind, she called her Karen. "We're here because I wanted to see you and tell you that I've lost a battle and a husband, but I won the war." All I was thinking when I was reading this, if I'm Omega Sentinel, I'm like, you act like you did it by yourself. So then Cyclops is like, "I think you came here for something else." So then Karen, I know her name is Dr. Gregor, I'm calling her Karen, goes, "And what would that be?" Cyclops is like a human interaction with a man experiencing his own profound grief. Shouldn't say anything, and then Cyclops goes, and what happens after when the last mutant dies underneath your heel? And Karen goes, I'm not sure. I suppose mankind exhales and lives happily ever after? And Cyclops laughs, and Karen goes, oh, that's a funny idea to you, human happiness? And Cyclops like, my question wasn't directed to you. And Omega Sentinel changes the conversation real quick. She's like, we should go, Dr. Gregor. Cyclops is due back in court. Because Cyclops knows what this turns into, and so does Omega Sentinel. It turns into Days of Futures Past, when the Sentinels enslaved the mutants and then realized that mutants and humans are the same damn thing, and for enslaving these people, we need to slave them too. And that's what happens. And Omega Sentinel does not want humanity to catch on to that just yet. And then we cut to Krakoa. We have Professor Xavier just kind of standing in like a field by himself. He just goes, no more. No more, and he screams, no more, and then he goes, it's time. To me, my X-Man, this is Charles Xavier. I need you, Rasputin 4. She's like, but X, I'm above the courthouse and I have a crucial role in the rescue mission. He cuts her right off. I know you've been splitting your time between me and the X-Men. I promise you, we can save them all, but I need you to join me right now. You must trust me. We can fix everything. And she goes, very well, and she takes off. And like immediately after she takes off, Wolverine's like, all right, Rasputin, Pete and I are in position. So Wolverine keeps calling out for her and she's not responding. And he goes, something's wrong, Pete. And he sniffs and he's like, we got company. Wolverine's like, we got soldiers and something big and heavy coming towards us. And whatever that big and heavy thing is, just shot at them. And they go flying. So then Wolverine's like, oh, crud. And Colossus is like, is that an electromagnetic? And they go flying towards the wall. And Wolverine is like, yep. And it's a hell of a strong one too. So this Orchis agent comes out of nowhere and screams, for humanity. And he has a flamethrower and it starts roasting Wolverine. So now the Orchis agents are laughing at him and all you hear is a bam. So you know that's Nightcrawler. So now it smells like farts, but they are in the sewers, so doesn't really matter. So he starts having a conversation with Wolverine and Colossus as he's beating the hell out of these Orchis agents. He's like, it appears we've lost Rasputin 4 and we must adapt our plan and perhaps even lost the invasion of Earth while Cyclops is still in prison. Colossus is like, unacceptable, and Wolverine's is like, I'll kill them all because he is a burnt biscuit. So the Orchis agents take off and Colossus picks up that big huge electromagnetic tank and then throws it and goes, let these Orchis cowards run and tell all the murderers in red that anybody aligned with fascism will die squirming under my metal foot. That's Russian for ain't no more games being played here. He didn't really say it in Russian, but you know what I meant. So Nightcrawler starts talking to Wolverine. He's like, I fear that you, and Wolverine cuts him right off. He's like, no more fear. From this moment on, they're going to be the ones who will fear. In other words, we're murking anybody who's affiliated with Orchis. Anybody. So the Nightcrawler grabs both Wolverine and Colossus and goes, then the war. And he bamps out of there. So you know, now it smells like farts. So now we cut to the trial of Cyclops. And the prosecution just stated the case and now the arrest. And then the judge goes, now the defense can begin. And the Cyclops is like, nah, I'm not offering a defense, Your Honor. I'm not dignifying any of that nonsense with a response. I know there's good in humanity, but I am not being prosecuted by it. So then the judge is like, I'm warning you, if you follow through this non-tactic, you will surely be found guilty in this capital case. So then Cyclops is like, I can only be judged by one soul, and I really don't think you want to meet her. So then we cut to the Bloom, and Bargain Bin Sinister goes, huzzah! That Rudy Poo would say huzzah. He's like, we got what we wanted. Krakoa's guilty, the mutants are guilty, we won. And after the court case, the history books won't be a problem anymore. Ben-Hur can write whatever drivel he wants. So Mega Sentinel's talking to Nimrod and she goes, why wait to celebrate? Nimrod, go kill Krakoa. And Nimrod's like, my pleasure, Mega Sentinel. And he pops out of there. Not a bam, but a pop. And then Karen noticed exactly what just happened. And now she's starting to realize how the fix is in. And how once they win, they're next. So then we cut to the Quiet Council chambers. I miss the Quiet Council. Won't see that again. And Nimrod shows up and he's like, hey there, you big dumb island. I wish I could say this won't hurt Krakoa, but then I don't want to be a liar. So then Krakoa hawks his big ass loogie at Nimrod, which its loogies is amber. And Nimrod's like, Unit disabled, he got me. So then Krakoa says something, and Krakoan, and then he gets up, full legs, full arms, and starts to take off. And then Ra's like, Nimrod Prime is disabled and we got a runner. And that's exactly what he's doing. I mean, he jumps down a hole into some water and starts to swim away. So then we got signals posted all around the world because Karen decides she wants to speak to the world. And she goes, people of Earth, while you slept, the world changed. This is Dr. Karen, all right, Dr. Gregor of Orchis. We were lulled into a false sense of security because a few good things that the mutants did, but they did not care for you and I. Krakoa has been proven to be an invasive alien species, and Orchis is pulling it from the Earth's garden. The next few hours will be uncomfortable. We do not relish the threat of violence, but the tree of liberty is dry, and she thirsts for righteous vengeance. Krakoa will be eradicated, and the mutants who don't leave the planet peacefully will be liquidated. You realize she's talking about people and not like product or properties. This is their final warning. So now we cut to the Blackbird and we got Rogue flying, and she's like, well, everything's gone to hell, but at least we knocked Orchis' hood off, but we didn't get Cyclops. And in case like, and what happened to Rasputin 4? And Colossus is like, a damn good question, and I would like an answer. So Gambit's like, and what happened to Iron Man's big plan? In case like, he's executing it right now. She's like, we weren't ready for the invasion yet, but it's all falling apart. We gotta go now. We're all over London now, and there are several gates that I can use to rally more troops. She's like, I'll have Emma go start the comms. Good luck, everybody. And then Wolverine's like, I'll see you on the other side, kiddo. Don't you die out there. So Kate starts using the gates. She pops up on Iron Man and Emma, lets them know what's going on. She pops up at Krakoa. She pops up on the Juggernaut. He's at the mansion. She's like, nice gun. And he goes, I smashed into one of Cable's armories. And then she's like, go be unstoppable, big guy. And then we see in New York, the Avengers and the X-Men fighting the Stark Sentinels. And Emma is giving a speech of her own. She's like, this is Emma Frost. I am touching so many beautiful mutant and human minds. Keep resisting. We might be fighting earlier than what we preferred, but I have the utmost confidence in your abilities. We will succeed. We must. The whole world's at stake, and we must be nothing less than fabulous. And then Kate shows up to Island M. She's like, it's time, Polaris. And she's gone. And then we cut to nowhere, where we see the Brood is taking over. So Karen called mutants an invasive species. That's because she never met the Brood, because that's exactly what they are, an invasive species. But they've been a little bit better since Brood took over. Now Brood technically is a mutant, but he's also part of the Brood. It's a long story. If you know the X-Men, then you know what the hell's going on. And he thinks Jean is coming to visit him, but it's not Jean, it's Polaris. And Polaris lets him know that Jean is dead, and if you want to avenge her, follow me. And Brood's like, you ain't said nothing but a word. To war. Now Karen gets to find out what a real invasive species is. When you think about your favorite TV show, it has to start off great. Otherwise, why watch it? And then there's some episodes that are like, that was okay. And then there's some like filler episodes, but they're needed to tell the story. But then you have your one episode where you're like, that's this comic. My name is Dorian. This is STM Comics. We are continuing our coverage of the Fall of the House of X with number 2. So our story starts off on the balloon, and this is the only comm page in this full comic book. Because after this, it is non-stop action. And also to take a good look at the balloon, because they ain't never going to be the same again. You got Bargain Bin Sensor. He's talking to MODOK. So he's pretty much about how Phelan cut out on him to go kill Tony Stark. If you want to know what he's talking about, all you gotta do is look up Iron Man number 15. Eventually, we're going to cover that whole run Iron Man on the channel. It's just too much stuff to cover right now. So then he goes to MODOK and he's like, and then the mutants threw some kind of space junk at us, but the deflector rays should be able to, take care of that. So make it so, MODOK. And he was like, look, the deflectors are working just fine, but that thing is still coming. And then Bargain Bin's like, you know what, put that troublesome object on the screen. And all you see is Polaris, who is studding like her daddy, bringing the big, huge celestial head of nowhere straight to him. And to Bargain Bin's credit, he calmly says, that looks irksome, because the dude on the control panel is like, oh my God. So then MODOK's like, the power of Polaris plus the overwhelming mass of that celestial head is going to surely overwhelm the Bloom shields. And then Bargain Bin's like, how much time do we have? And all I hear is a wha-boom. So that means no time. So Bargain Bin's like, kill every mutant you see. Problem with that is they're not going to be dealing with mutants. Oh no. They're dealing with something a hell of a lot worse. And we see on the next page that Polaris has learned a lot from her daddy, because she's got the celestial head and she's controlling it and she's making it chomp down on the bloom. So then the book says that there's a NASA satellite that sends a feed to a whole bunch of classrooms around the world. So a lot of kids get to see this going on right now. So Polaris goes into the bloom and she's like, you can run. You know that, right? So then they decide to start shooting metal bullets at her, which is not a smart idea. And then they're like, she's invulnerable. And she goes, how observant of you. So then one of them goes, she got to drop that force field sooner or later. And when she does, hit her with the Blithesfield rounds. I guess they're non-metal rounds, I'm guessing. And she just goes, to me, my brood. Which they are damn near the definition of an invasive species and a lot worse to deal with than mutants. And one soldier goes, oh God. And all I was thinking to myself is, he can't help you right now. You about to go see him. So then one of the soldiers is like, switch to the anti-mutant rounds. Keep firing. And Polaris is like, what did we learn today, gentlemen? And then she comes down and goes, firing metal at the new master of magnetism has poor results. Now, I know we're covering the resurrection of Magneto, but I hope they keep Polaris just like this. So then Polaris grabs one of the soldiers and goes, where is the clone of Sinisters? Where is Dr. Stasis? He and I have a date. Man, she's cold. And you might as well get this dude a piece of cheese because he is ratting out Bargain Bin. He's like, he's aboard. I just seen him running from the command deck. So then we cut to outside the bloom. There's an Orchid ship trying to come back and they're trying to radio in. Nobody's responding because, you know, everybody's getting eaten right now. And I guess the commander of the ship, he's like, there's no response, lads. I guess we're on our own. We could turn around, but I never ran from a fight. Don't worry, your record's gonna be perfect because this is gonna be your last one. So he's like, those are pure-blooded humans under threat on that station. So all right, listen up. It's gonna be a hot landing zone on the bloom. The X-Men threw some kind of haunted skull at us and it has some kind of bioweapon inside. So then Wolverine starts laughing. He goes, what do you think is so funny? And then he goes, maybe we should just airlock this runt that Bob found. So Bob's like, it mess out on the cash that Dr. Stasis has on this dude's head? I don't think so. So one of the soldiers is like, sir, Bob is like a half a foot smaller than the dude that captured Wolverine. And then the big dude's like, I am also a Bob, bub. So then Wolverine just rolls his eyes and is like, I told you this wouldn't work. So then Colossus rips out his Orchid suits and goes, your plan was to kill your way onto the bloom. And Wolverine's like, it would have worked. And the Colossus is like, but sneaking on and killing our way off is smarter. On the next page with blood all around Wolverine, Wolverine's like, I'm finished sneaking, Pete. I'm gonna finish this the only way I know how. And then Colossus is like, where's Nightcrawler? And Wolverine is like, he teleported into the hold. And all of a sudden you hear, bamf. So it smells like farts. And he goes, I'm here, but I'll be right back. And hear another bamf. And he teleported this dude outside in space and then bamf back in there. Now Nightcrawler is religious as religious gets, and if he's murking Orchis agents, you know these dudes are done so. So the Nightcrawler's like, I'll search for Firestar, and then Wolverine's like, I got a bad feeling about her. Colossus and I search and destroy. And Colossus is like, we're docked. Get behind me. So then the doors open and the Orchis agents are firing on X-Men, but they're like, X-Men, stop. You can come on without a fight. We just want off this madhouse. And all you hear is somebody go, I'm afraid you missed your last stop. And then the Brood come in and devour these dudes. And Colossus is like, did I miss a meeting? We deployed the Brood? And Wolverine's like, they're under the control of Brood. I trust them. And Nightcrawler's like, they're under control until they're not. So then all you see is Polaris with a caramel macchiato, because he looks like a caramel macchiato type of person. And she goes, hello boys, no, the Brood were not part of your cute little plan that you made in the Morlock tunnels. But we're improvising ever since the plans got moved up. And by the way, Orchis coffee's a maybe it wasn't caramel macchiato. She goes, I'm here to kill Stasis and Firestar. What are you doing? So the Nightcrawler bamps inside of Polaris's force field, so now her force field smells like farts. And the Nightcrawler's like, great minds, but actually Firestar is a double agent. Jean implanted memories into Stasis' head before she died. And Polaris goes, ha, that's the most Jean thing I've ever heard of. Everybody says that. So then she goes, fine, I'll hold off on destroying this space station until Firestar and any other civilians are off. Then I'm gonna drop kick this whole thing into the sun, and you best believe she means it. Then she goes, who's saving Krakoa and Cyclops? So Colossus is like, one Root, one Ranger. And Wolverine's like, Kate's bagging Slim. And then we sent, and then Colossus cuts him off and goes, we're spread too thin. Wolverine's like, they're both in trouble. Hell, we're all in trouble. So on the next page, we have Emma, who is telepathically talking to everybody. And she goes, okay, darlings, the beautiful voice you hear in your head is the White Queen. I'm in New York walking the dogs before you put them down. With 2 Orchis agents who think they're dogs now. And she goes, now that the bloom is being uprooted, we can talk about reinforcing the world. Shadowcats in Paris backing up Cyclops. And we still have X-Men on the wreck Orchis station. Do you need assistance, Logan? And as he's stabbing into this Orchis agent's back, he goes, have I ever? She goes, I was just being polite. And in the western part of the United States, our nation is literally on the run. How goes the rescue of Krakoa? And on the next page, we see Krakoa actually got caught and is being held by some Sentinels. And then we see the Juggernaut come out of nowhere with one of Cable's big, huge guns and starts attacking him. So then he blasts the Sentinels and then he frees Krakoa. So then he goes, I got Krakoa, but we can use a lift. But then she goes, stand by, Mr. Marco. One of my husband's deadly contraptions has found me in New York. And if you notice, that Sentinel just took out those Orchis agents. So that was some friendly fire. So while she's fighting the Sentinel, she goes, Rogue, Gambit, can you pick up Juggernaut and Krakoa? So the Rogue's like, this is all terrible. This is all going to hell. So the Gambit's like, you know that secret that Destiny didn't want you to tell me about? And Rogue's like, yeah. He goes, maybe it's time we pull that ripcord. So then they jump out the Blackbird, and then Rogue's like, Emma, we're sending the jet back to you on autopilot. You're going to need to send somebody else to help Krakoa, and Remy and I have a mission. So Emma's like, Rogue, this is not the time to break ranks. What could possibly be more important than this? So then somebody freezes the Sentinel, and all you hear is, it's okay, Emma. If Rogue says something needs to be done, then it must need doing. And she's like, I'm very glad to see you, Iceman powered Synch. So it seems like we got Stasis trapped in orbit, so now we need to neutralize some higher value targets down here, like Myra and Dr. DeVoe. So then we switch to the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Back to the mansion. And the Rogue's like, I had to hide Manifold away. I'm not even sure why, but Destiny was positive mutants had no shot without him. And then Gambit's like, he's going to be pissed. So the Rogue's like, yeah, but Destiny was for sure the villains wanted Manifold, like he was the most important thing. But yeah, the way I did it, he's definitely gonna be mad. So the Gambit's like, putting him in stasis and a Krakoa in no place is like deleting him from the universe. So then they get him out and they try to talk to him calmly, and he goes, oh my god, the stars. Have I been on ice? So the Gambit's like, yeah, but a lot's happened since you've been sleeping. Rogue's like, you were a high priority target of Orchis, so we had to stow you away. So then he blasts Gambit with his powers. He goes, you kidnapped me. You buried me like a corpse outside of time. So he just cold cocks Rogue and he goes, you're X-Men. You're supposed to be the best of us. So then it's like, by the goddess? And then we see it's Destiny wearing a Rogue mask somehow. And then she's like, the future was unwritten without you, Manifold. So then he goes, I've been a little cranky after waking, but now that I'm awake, I'm dreaming. Isn't that right, Latuka? And she takes off the Destiny mask and goes, hello, little brother. Man, I have missed him. If anybody in the comments wants to help me out with this, I definitely appreciate it. So the Manifold goes, we're in some deep shit, I suppose. And Latuka goes, these 2 mutants were sent by someone that's less adept than you and I are. They have a crude understanding of the universe, but they did what they needed to do. They protected you from what was going to happen that would have ended you. These X-Men succeeded in changing your destiny. Now I will see you again. So then all of a sudden all you see is Gambit goes, so trust us, it was for your own well-being. Is he even listening to me? Then Rogue goes, as anyone? That was cold. So then Rogue's like, do you hear those jets in the background? And the Manifold's like, it's okay, you two. I understand what must be done. And we must go where we're needed. And they disappear right before a Sentinel comes and smashes all 3 of them. Now, for those of you guys that aren't familiar with Manifold, he is like Nightcrawler as far as a teleporter, but on like a universal scale. Like, the dude can teleport anywhere in the universe. Actually, he can go from galaxy to galaxy with no problem. And he can teleport a whole bunch of people with him, like several hundred people at once. So that's why Orchis wanted to take him out. So now we cut back to the Bloom, and this is my favorite part of the whole book. Bargain Bin must have ran cross country when he was in high school, because he is hauling ass away from Wolverine. And he's like, you can't kill me, Logan. If you do, you'll never see Firestar again. Then he starts laughing and goes, "Go find something else to stab, you unctuous varmint." Jerry Duggan must have been a Yosemite Sam fan, because that's not the first time he used the word varmint with Wolverine. And since he's in the escape pod, he goes ahead and ejects himself out as he laughs all the way in space. So then Wolverine's like, "Damn it." And he goes, "Hey Emma, rip off Sinister to his left for Earth in the escape pod, so get some eyes on him." And then he gets zapped from behind by MODOK. So the MODOK's like, "I admired you mutants deploying the Brood. Well played, well played." It was well played. So then he leaves the space station. He's like, "Last time we met, you survived a crash at the space station. Surely it will be easy for you to do it again." And he rolls out. So the Nightcrawler's like, "How are we gonna find Wolverine in this mess?" And the Polaris like, "Don't worry, I can feel his adamantium bones." So then she tells Brood to get the Brood out of there, go back to nowhere, because she got it in a stable orbit. So then the Bloom is crashing down to Earth. So then Colossus is like, "I couldn't find Firestar." And then Wolverine's like, "Stasis was gloating about how he has her, but he could have been lying. She could already be dead." And then Polaris is like, "We'll find out the truth once we find him." So then we cut to Omega Sentinel, and she's with Cyclops, and he is beat up. And she's like, "We don't need a public execution. You just need to die." And she has a sword behind him, and she's about to cut off his head, when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Dr. Karen shows up and hits her with an EMP. Now, she just did a good thing, so maybe I shouldn't be calling her Dr. Karen, but she needs to do a little bit more before I change her name. So the Cyclops is like, "Dr. Gregor, what do I owe the pleasure?" And she goes, "What you said to me in prison, I think we might have a problem with a secret part of Orchis. There's a part of the organization I haven't been able to access ever since my husband and I brought Nimrod online." She's like, "There's a huge amount of resources that have no oversight both on Earth and in space. Tell me, what do you know about Sentinel City?" As we see Nimrod break out the amber that Krakoa put it in, and then he just disappears. Like I said, from start to finish, nothing but action. Before we get into the festivities, yes, this is a comic book celebration, I got two questions for you guys. Whether it's in comic books, books, movies, TV, what's a character that you really wanted to see die? And before you say, "Oh, that's morbid," this is all fiction, people. For me, it was King Joffrey. When that boy turned blue, it was one of the happiest moments that I've had watching TV. Now, he did a fantastic job. I cannot stress how good an actor he is. And he caught some flack. And I think he got acting for a minute. I don't know if he's back into it now, but he did a fantastic job in the role. For me to want that character to die so bad, he did a great job. And I'm not gonna lie, I rewinded the whole scene about 3 times. So who's a character that does it for you? Please let me know in the comments. And also too, there is a second death that happens in this comic at the end that I don't know how I feel about right now. But I want to ask you guys how you feel about it once you find out who it is. Now, without further ado, my name is Dorian. This is SCM Comics. We are continuing our coverage of the Fall of House of X with number 3. So the story starts off in the desert, and Juggernaut is still lugging Krakoa along, and he still hasn't gotten the help yet, actually, in the last book. When an adamantium spear comes out of nowhere and pretty much disables the Juggernaut. And then on the next page, we see it's our favorite fascist group, Orchis, in a refurbished SHIELD helicarrier, and they're all laughing, trying to get the Juggernaut. They're shooting at him, which will do nothing to the Juggernaut. But then they start shooting at Krakoa, which will do something. So now the Juggernaut is pissed, and he picks up the splinters of Krakoa and slings at Orchis, which when he throws it, might as well be bullets. So then we cut to Paris, where very recently Dr. Gregor just betrayed the Orchis and knocked out Omega Sentinel. So then Dr. Gregor's like, "Alright, we need to go help Krakoa because Orchis is going to kill it." And Cyclops is like, "You know what? I believe in Krakoa. Besides, in my gut, I feel like we have more pressing matters." So then Dr. Gregor's like, "I thought you were blind about your ruby quartz visor." So Cyclops is like, "I memorized the steps from my cell to all the places that you took me." But then Dr. Gregor's like, "You're going the wrong way. You're headed towards the basement of the courthouse, which is under the same river." And Cyclops is like, "Yeah, I could tell by the humidity. Like, look, you could take your chances with Omega Sentinel once he wakes up, or you could follow me. I know you're going to follow me because the AI have bigger plans than just killing mutants right now." So then Dr. Gregor's like, "You could have freed yourself at any time." And Cyclops like, "Yeah, I could." So Dr. Gregor's like, "Why'd you wait?" And he's like, "I was waiting for you. Hold on a second." So he takes his little blinding visor off, and he shoots these 2 Orchis agents hard with his optical blast. He was like, "I was waiting on you, Dr. Gregor. We have almost everything in common. But I got a question. Who really runs Orchis? And Dr. Gregor's like, I thought we did. Myself, Dr. DeVoe. It really doesn't matter now because we're trapped. And all of a sudden all you hear is, you're never trapped. Now on the next page we see that it's magic with the power fully restored. You want to see how that happened? You can check out X-Men 32. Cards right there. Link will be in the description. So the magic brings Cyclops' Ruby Quartz visors and goes, you might need this because you wouldn't believe who you're standing next to. So the Cyclops starts to tell Magic that on the human side of Orchis, they were gloating and torching them and do all kinds of other stuff. But the AI side was too quiet. So he knew that they was up to something. So the Cyclops was like, look, I know Krakoa needs help, but can the X-Men save Krakoa without me? And Magic's like, if it needs doing, then it will be done. Then we cut to the planet of Arakko. Man, ever since X-Men Red ended, you almost forget Arakko's even there. And we have Apocalypse. God, it's good seeing him back. And he's standing with the mutants of Arakko. And on the other side, we have the mutants that went through the gate and actually made it to Arakko, here from Earth. So Apocalypse is like, the Earth mutants have raised their banners. A united and reforged Arakkos will join our cousins, who will join me. And we see Wolf, who we met all the way in X-Men number 22, which nobody watched, but you can now. Cards right here. Link will be in the description. And he's one of the first ones to join the cause. So all of a sudden there's a big boom. And on the next page we see is Manifold, Rogue, and Gambit. They have a sword station that they're traveling in. So the Rogue's like, hi sugars. Don't ask me to do a southern accent. We're a little bit pressed for time, so if you get aboard, get strapped in, and get your trade tables up, we can go save Krakoa. I know some of you are from Earth and you've been waiting for this day. Nothing comes easy. So if you want to go home, we're going to have to fight for it. So they get all loaded up and the Manifold's like, I've asked the universe for much and I must ask for more. There is great suffering and injustice and it must be set right. So please take us home. And it shows up right next to the other sword station and makes a big X in space. So the Rogue's like, stay frosty, y'all. We're going to save Krakoa. We're going to deal with any stray sentinels, the sentinel factories, and the gulags. The telepaths are going to divide us up into strike teams and then we'll conquer. So then Rogue remembers when Destiny told her about this very moment when a big X will appear in space. So then we cut back to the Juggernaut and Krakoa. He's still getting shot at. And Juggernaut's like, you lousy mugs are now. Look up, and that X has come down from space, and the Horus agents are down there like, oh my god. So the Tony calls his wife Emma and lets him know that he just intercepted a message from Firestar and plays it for her. If you are seeing this message, then I'm probably dead. Dr. Stasis realized that I've been on the X-Men side all along after I helped Iron Man set his trap for the majority of the Stark Sentinels. I placed a tracker on the Maniac, so go punch his ticket for me. So then Shadowcat goes, rerouting us now. Tony's like, bring her home or avenge her if you can't. So Emma's like, thank you, Anthony. So then we cut to the middle of nowhere. It literally says the middle of nowhere. And Bargain Bin is doing what any Sinister would do. He's getting the hell out of Dodge once his plans go awry. So the Emma Shadowcat shows up and goes, where you going, Stasis? And Dr. Stasis goes, oh, it's a porcelain strumpet and a lunatic ninja. I wouldn't be talking shit right now if I was him, but I guess he wouldn't be a Sinister if he wasn't talking shit. So the Emma goes, Caitlin, and she goes, with pleasure. And she starts beating up Dr. Stasis, talking about, you better hold Firestars alive or you'll be begging for death. And she knocks off his helmet by phasing her hand through his head. And he goes, unhand me. And he gets right back to the talking. He's like, I hidden Firestar away alive just for the scenario that we're in right now. And you can't use your little telepathic powers because I got the best psycho blockers around. And Kitty goes, you mean this psycho blocker right here? I grabbed it when I phased my hand through your head. And his old face is classic. So then Emma reads his mind and goes, Sync, I got Firestar's location. So then Sync is in New York. She's being held on some kind of tugboat with some Orchis agents. Sync's like, I'm so close to her that I can sync with her powers naturally. He uses Firestar's power to pretty much hit these Orchis agents with. Finds Firestar being held in some kind of iron coffin that's having some kind of sleeping agent pumped into it. He opens it up, takes off her mask and goes, welcome back, Firestar. Breathe easy, I got you. So the Sync's like, we got her and she's coming your way. Now, before we get into what Emma's about to do, she does have a history of hooking up some Sinisters. In Immortal X-Men #1, that's part of the Sinister series. Cards right there, link will be in the description. What she did to our tried and true Sinister, whew, it was nasty. And what she's about to do to this dude was a hell of a lot worse. She goes, I've tried to be good for so long, but you men broke me. You won't let me be nice. I've destroyed men 10 times. No, 100 times worth you. You hurt us. You hurt me. I could kill you right where you grovel, but I won't. And he goes, oh, thank you. Thank you. Instead, I will reach into your disgusting mind and pull forth your worst nightmares. The most unhinged fears about mutants born of your voluminous, bigoted mind. And I promise you, it will feel very real. And the puppy dog eyes that I see in Bargain Bin, I only seen one at a time. So Wolverine slices him into thirds. Cyclops shoots his head right off. Kitty Pryde phases his heart right through his body. Colossus just pretty much beats his head into hamburger meat. And then Magneto crushes his head with his helmet, just like he did Tarn the Uncaring. So I guess Bargain Bin read that issue too. And while all this is going on, the man is going into cardiac arrest. So then Bargain Bin's like, please, I have a wife and a family. Let me speak to Cyclops. He'll grant me mercy. So Emma goes, I'm afraid he might, but he's not here right now. I am. And if you're anything like the mutant Sinister, if you think about returning is a good idea, it is not. Stay dead. But the next time I kill you, it will be so much worse. So now the heart attack really sets in and Bargain Bin falls over. And Emma goes, a heart attack is less than what that man deserves. So then Kitty's like, if we don't do Dracula properly, then we deserve whatever happens when he does return. So Emma's like, are you seriously suggesting that I didn't kill him properly? So as I was reading, I'm just sitting back and I'm like, and that's the problem with comics. Like, they're literally having a conversation, the problem with comics, because everybody comes back. Like, it's not even a secret no more. And now you gotta properly kill somebody, which you could disintegrate them. That don't mean anything. Hydra Cat was damn near disintegrated, yet and still we're having a whole comic book series about him. Which, if you didn't read it, card's right there, link will be in the description. So that out of nowhere, somebody yells stasis, and you see a flame just goes flying in there, and Firestar is freaking seeing this dude. So now Dr. Stasis has been properly cremated. So the Emma's like, thanks. We were just having a discussion on how to tidy up the corpse. Whatever kind of peace we win in the end, it will be because you were such a great X-Men, Angelica. You did us proud, and you paid the hero's price. Now let's get back to the Thunderbird, because we got to get back in the fight. There's a crisis on every corner of the globe. So now we cut to the Moon, Cyclops, Dr. Gregor, and Magik. And Dr. Gregor's like, this is where Nimrod went. You used to live here, right? On the Moon? And Cyclops is like, yep. Please, no jokes. And Magik's like, you sure you want me to leave you two alone, boss? And Cyclops is like, I need to do this. Tell Emma to leave her ear out for me. And Magik's like, Roger. I'm being asked to hunt down Dr. DeVoe, which will be an X-Men number 33. Can't wait to see how that's going to turn out. So Cyclops is like, this is my family home. What is Nimrod doing here? So then Dr. Gregor's like, have you heard of Sentinel City? After the victory over Krakoa, your habitat on the Moon here was repurposed into like a relay station for a mining settlement, except for none of the ore made it back to Earth. It was used on site. And Cyclops was like, used for what? And she's like, I don't know. Nobody at Orchis knows, not even Dr. DeVoe. I'm assuming Omega Sentinel knew, maybe Mara knew, and so did. And she turns to the next page and goes, you Nimrod. Well, Cyclops like, Emma, heads up, be ready. So the Nimrod goes, it's hard to surprise me, Dr. Gregor, but if you manage that feat 3 times, I didn't think I'd be seeing you again. And she goes, why the secrets? And from me of all people, our mining operation at Sentinel City, almost none of the metal makes it back to Earth. What are you building out there? And Nimrod goes, the future and the end. So Cyclops was like, Dr. Gregor, that thing is not your husband. And she goes, that is true. But Nimrod only exists because of my husband's sacrifice. I'm pretty sure he could calculate the truth in that. And Nimrod goes, Dr. Gregor, I choose not to lie to you. And those tears that you see in her eyes are justified, because now she can look at her ass perfectly. And Nimrod's like, I'm giving you this gift earlier than I calculated. But then Cyclops hits him with a huge optic blast and goes, you psycho. So Nimrod's like, we calculated that we have the greatest chance of success if mutants and humans are at each other's throats so much that you wouldn't look up and notice a sword hanging over your head. The sword of Damocles. All right, I'm stop being a nerd. Sentinel City is not an outpost nor a mine. It is a tool to help sterilize this hellish planet once and for all. So now we're at the end. How do you feel about Dr. Gregor getting murdered? Because at first I hated Karen, didn't stand her. But then at the end I was like, I kind of like her, and then they kill her off. How do you guys feel? Please let me know in the comments. So I was slowly but surely coming out of what Karen Gillan did to Professor Xavier in Rise of Power of X #3. Slowly but surely, I was coming around. You guys were helping out. You was like, hey, there might be a better plan. Why would he just do this? There has to be some kind of reason. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I'm agreeing with you guys. And then Jerry Duggan decided to go ahead and put the nail in the coffin and does what he does in this book. Ain't no coming back from this. No coming back from this whatsoever. My name is Dorian. This is SCM Comics. We are continuing our coverage of Fall House of X with number 4. Now, our story starts off with Apocalypse, and he's finally back to being Apocalypse, because there was a stretch where he was a little soft. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, man, Genesis is more Apocalypse than Apocalypse, but that was on Arakko. Now he's back on Earth, and he's dealing with these punk ass humans, like he just said on the page. No mercy. And on the next page, we see these Stark Sentinels putting the boots to Krakoa. It's screaming whatever it is screaming in Krakoan, and everything looks bad. And all of a sudden, one of the Stark Sentinels gets cut in half, because Apocalypse is showing out. He's like machines, weapons of cowards, as he cuts another Stark Sentinel's head right off. So he destroys the last Stark Sentinel, and then Krakoa is hurt. hurt. Like Apocalypse walks over and he's like, you are dying. He cuts his arm and starts giving his blood to Krakoa, and he's like, I refuse to let that happen. So now we cut to the moon. Nimrod just got finished putting the finishing touches on Cyclops' beatdown, and then he just teleports out of there, because he figures the place is about to blow up, so why should he have to do all the killing? And Cyclops is cyclically talking to Emma, and you got your butt whipped when you can barely talk in your mind. He's like, Emma, if I don't make it back. And then all you hear is, of course you're gonna make it back, boss. It's magic. And Cyclops was like, magic is a trap. Nimrod could have killed me. Everybody reading this knows that. So the magic's like, of course it's a trap. It's always a trap. We better step out. She uses her power and teleports out of there. And Nimrod's like, damn, thought I timed that this right. Well, I guess I didn't. So our Nimrod's floating in space. Omega Sentinel's like, Nimrod, could you join us back on Earth, please? And he goes, I am busy. I'm killing X-Men in multiple places. And she's like, well, we got a visitor. And it's Professor Xavier. Yes, this is the point where this comic book goes left. Now, this hurts to read, but this is Professor Xavier and Nimrod talking. So Nimrod goes, state your business, Charles Xavier. What could you possibly offer? Xavier, my dream is Krakoa, Nimrod, not Earth or the solar system. If you let me achieve that dream, then I'll help you achieve what you were programmed to pursue. If you're playing a dangerous all or nothing game, let me put my thumb on the scale. Let me remove the mutants from your board for you. Even if I can trust you, why should I? Because I taught my X-Men to save every life they could, and so they have. Let me save my children's lives. The night of the Hellfire Gala, I acted to stop the battle, but that was a half measure. I'm glad he admitted that. Let me offer you what I should have done that night. All of Mutantdom lives in peace on Krakoa, and I will not interfere in your designs, under pain of death. Even if you bend the knee, they will never accept this bargain. When did this turn into Game of Thrones? You're wrong. They shall accept it, if I will it to be so. Let me ask you something. Have you considered what will happen when you succeed? When mutants and humans are wiped from the planet, what will become of you? You have nothing to fear from mutants living on peace on Krakoa, and if that changes, then I trust you'll teach my children a lesson that they already learned, that we have limitations. So then Nimrod goes, perhaps a garden menagerie on Earth wouldn't violate my programming. He's talking about Krakoa, with the understanding that if the peace is violated. So the Professor Xavier cuts him off and goes, allow me to seal the deal with an offer. America has launched a nuclear capable vessel. I will handle it. Nimrod goes, but you won't be able to control your former students. So Professor Xavier goes, no, I gave them the ability to reject me. The red triangle defense means they have free will. The Nimrod goes, I know the teacher must have favorites. If I agree, I will do what must be done. Professor Xavier goes, I accept. Then we cut back to Apocalypse and Krakoa. Krakoa's still not doing well, even though Apocalypse been giving his blood. And Apocalypse is pretty much like, my blood's not going to be enough. Who is willing to sacrifice for Krakoa? Who is willing to give up their lives? So this older mutant from Morocco comes out of nowhere and is like, I will sacrifice. But it can't just be like, oh, I just give up my life type of deal. No. You have to fight because they're from Akora. And that's how it goes down. This old dude hit Apocalypse with like some heat vision, and Apocalypse gave him a one-hitter quitter. Like, people need to realize that this is Apocalypse, like Omega level, get in your ass Apocalypse now. And then this old dude's blood splashes on Krakoa, and then this rock monster stepped up and was like, I'm willing to sacrifice myself. So they're pretty much squared up with each other, and one of the other mutants are like, the sun is gone, Nova. And the blue rock monster is like, should we do this? And Apocalypse was like, don't worry about that, that's something to do with machines. You need to face me. So whatever is making the sun brighter has something to do with Orchis and the AIs. Emma is trying to go inside the minds of the Orchis agents that's on whatever that satellite is that's going over the sun. And then she realizes that they're using the red triangle defense. And as soon as she said that, Cyclops is like, Xavier. And out of nowhere, Charles is like, Cyclops, we must talk, old friend. So then all of a sudden they're at the mansion and at the baseball diamond. And Scott's like, it's funny, every time you want to sympathize with me, we come here, but you still look at me like a kid. And he's like, you're an Orchis right now, aren't you? So then Charles is like, look, it's not what you think, Scott. Please, hard choices have to be made. I needed latitude, so I made a deal. So then Scott just loses it and is speaking for the fans. Like the deal you made the night of the gala, we could have won. You got a backroom deal again, and we just have to live with it. So you decide who lives and who dies. Let's cut it in, Charles. Who's gonna live? Who's gonna die? Anyone I know? Anyone I love? So then Charles goes, I had hoped you would have understand. I won't apologize for what I've done and what I need to do. Right now, I need Orchis to trust me, Cyclops. And as they're talking, Professor Xavier is pretty much mind controlling the people in Space Force. Still can't believe that's a thing. And I remember way back in Immortal X-Men number 10, when Professor Xavier is pretty much explaining how he could have did this to everybody on the planet if he really wanted to, but chose not to. But now he chooses to, and he controls this dude to push the button, and the ship explodes. Just like that. No more humans. And before you go on to say, oh, well, Magneto killed humans and so did Mystique and a lot of other mutants. Yeah, that might be true. But there's something different from a criminal killing somebody and a judge killing somebody, or a teacher killing somebody, or a doctor. You hold them in higher regard. So when they fall from grace, it is a really, really, really long fall. And Professor Xavier is probably on the longest fall I have ever seen. But trust me, he is falling. So Cyclops immediately starts doing the red triangle defense and goes, damn you, stay out of my head. It's like it didn't have to be this way. So Cyclops is like, this isn't nearly enough X-Men, but we need to go what we have. Manifold, get ready to take us to Sentinel City. But Emma, you need to stay back. And Emma's like, I had enough of handymen ordering me around for a lifetime. And Cyclops is like, it's not even about that. Look, we're probably not going to come back from this, and somebody needs to face Charles, and that somebody needs to be you. And the magic goes, motion carried. So the Manifold's like, I see now, a bit more clearly. I'm here to raise our sword. Breathe deep, be calm, and hang on. So then the rock monster, his name is Wrong Slide, has actually been putting up a pretty good fight. And Apocalypse was like, you've done well. But now he's done playing games, and he starts putting it on Wrong Slide. Apocalypse pretty much crushes his arm. He falls down. Apocalypse goes, speak it, and it may be true. And he goes, if you see Rock Slide again, tell him for me, it was so good to be for a while. So while all that's going on, the Orchis ship that's in space that's pretty much concentrating the sun's rays down upon the Earth, all of a sudden just explodes out of nowhere, and so does Wrong Slide's head as Apocalypse pulls it apart. So Apocalypse is telling Krakoa to drink deep as all the Wrong Slide's blood goes onto Krakoa, and all of a sudden it just wakes up. So then we cut to the debacle on Sentinel City. I'm telling you, The X-Men are the one-legged man in the ass-kicking contest. It is not going well whatsoever. Nimrod is putting it on everybody. He knocks out Colossus, which is saying something because it's in his still skin. He pretty much blasts Rogue in the Gambit. He's taken out. He gets back to whooping Cyclops' ass, which he's been doing that for like 3 issues now. But then Omega Sentinel's like, there's a huge storm brewing. And Nimrod's like, well, we are close to the sun. And she's like, it's not coming from the sun. It's coming from Earth because it's a storm. And she is all kinds of pissed off. So, you know, those were like secondary matches that Nimrod was having. Now the main event's about to happen. Because Storm's coming and she's bringing all of her Omega level power with her. And it's going to be a fantastic last issue. Before we get into today's festivities, let me just talk to you guys for a second. The reason why I love comics so much is because no matter what you're going through, when you're reading those pages for whatever length of time it takes you, you are free of your issues. I have not had the greatest 3 weeks when it comes to family and my job. And I'm not bitching to you because everybody has problems. I mean, everybody. Just for me, when I'm reading the comics, there's no money issues. There's no family issues. There's no issues with your coworkers or your supervisors. I'm just free in the story. And hopefully comics does the same for you. Like, even watching these videos, I leave out a lot. So hopefully you guys are still going and reading these stories and you're supporting your local comic book shop. Or if you're like me and you don't have a local comic book shop together, you just get your comics from like Kindle or you download them. And also I want to add that Gerry Duggan catches a lot of bullshit when it comes to being an X-writer. Like, he's like the least talented one of the bunch. Now, I love them all, but Gerry Duggan catches a lot of flack. This story is almost perfect from beginning to end. And I enjoy the hell out of his writing when it comes to him writing for the X books. Now that we're almost 2 minutes in, which is really bad, but I just had to talk to you guys for a second. My name is Dorian. This is SCM Comics. We are concluding our coverage of the Fall of the House of X with number 5. So the story starts off with Bargain Bin Sinister. Can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I kind of miss him just a little bit. And he's pretty much talking to Phelan, trying to recruit him, and he's talking about how when Magneto was talking to the world leaders and pretty much telling them that they got new guys now. And Phelan is pretty much like, you don't gotta pitch me hard, dude. I'm in. The mutant stole Mars from me. I remember in Iron Man number 18 when Phelan was trying to talk to Magneto, and Magneto was like, who are you, dude? Like, I'm sorry, that was a funny moment for me. Anyway, they're bringing this up in the story to pretty much reflect that there is no human element in Orchis no more. It is all AI. And we see Nimrod putting it on Wolverine. I mean, this whole left side of his jaw is gone. But we also see that the X-Men were able to take out the whole machine that was going to take out the Earth's atmosphere, because, you know, without an atmosphere we couldn't breathe, and that pretty much takes out humans and mutants. So I guess someone would be okay. Like, Juggernaut doesn't have to breathe. I don't think Colossus has to breathe either. Anyway, let's move on. So on the next page, we see that Nimrod is making Wolverine's right side match his left side, which that means he is not pretty right now. But Nimrod is beating up on people in 3 different locations. He's beating up Wolverine in space. He's also in New York City, and he's also in Washington, D.C., where he's about to go up against Polaire. So you know that's going to be a heavyweight fight. And it's about to get even heavier because we see on the next page that Magneto is there to help out his baby girl. So in New York, you got Synch. He's tapping into Sunfire's powers. He's trying to pretty much heat up the metal that Nimrod is made out of. And then Emma comes in her diamond forms, knocks the hell out of Nimrod to try to crack him open. You got Manifold and Magic coming from behind, but Nimrod sees him and it hits him with a blast. So back in space, you got Cyclops and you got Nightcrawler, and they're pretty much talking about how they're trying to sabotage the space station, when Psylocke starts talking to everybody telepathically, and she's like, guys, it's Psylocke. Colossus got punched into space, and I almost can't see him. Now, you know Nimrod is just showing out when he could punch somebody the size of Colossus into space. So Cyclops is like, go get him, just come back. So Nightcrawler's like, all right, Psylocke, show me what you see so I can go get him. And then he bamps out of there. So now it smells like farts. And as soon as Nightcrawler leaves, Nimrod shows up. So now we cut to the control room where Omega Sentinel's trying to undo whatever Nightcrawler did. And out of nowhere, Rogue comes through the floor, knocks her over. Omega Sentinel's like, what are you guys doing? Look, Xavier cut a deal. Like, you guys need to calm down. We're gonna let you live. But she's like, if you don't like that deal, then I guess we're gonna have to deal with a few you guys. But what Rogue was a decoy, because Psylocke comes from behind out of nowhere, hits her with a psionic side in her head, and pretty much goes, no deal. So then Psylocke's like, weird, that was supposed to kill her. Well, Omega Sentinel's on the ground, and she gets pretty much like mothering, sorry it went bad. So the Rogue's like, oh, well, let me step in. It's about to step on her head. And Psylocke's like, no, don't do a Rogue. I pretty much fried the Sentinel part of her brain. So this is Karima. This is her human brain, and it's drowning in regret. So she's pretty much in hell right now. So then Psylocke and Rogue are trying to attack Nimrod, and Nimrod ain't having that. And he hits them with a blast. So the Nightcrawler bamps back into the battlefield, so it smells like farts. And he's got Colossus, and Colossus goes and knocks the hell out of Nimrod, and Colossus is bleeding from his mouth. So Nimrod must have punched him so hard that here is internal bleeding going on. So Nimrod pretty much shakes it off and backhand Colossus right into the middle of next week, which is better than into space. And then he's about to stomp the yard with Nightcrawler and Magic when all of a sudden this huge optic blast comes out of nowhere and knocks the hell out of Nimrod. So Cyclops, who is beat up, is pretty much yelling, I'll never let you kill the X-Men. And then Nimrod is pretty much thinking to himself, I've been through this simulation millions of times, and Cyclops is always the last X-Men standing. He's the last person I got to deal with. And Cyclops' optic blast is actually doing damage to Nimrod, but because he went through the simulations, his body is able to pretty much adapt to his blast and pretty much grabs Cyclops by the neck and says one of the coldest lines I've ever heard Nimrod say. He goes, I don't know if there's a next life for you, but I promise you, if there is, I will follow. So then we also see that in New York, Synch and Emma Frost is being held by the neck. And in Washington, D.C., Magneto and Polaris are being held by the neck. And all three Nimrods are pretty much saying, any last words? And then Cyclops is like, she's not going to let you kill me. And Nimrod's like, is that more prattle about your dead wife? And he goes, no. Allow me to introduce you to Storm. And she is bringing down more lightning than she brought down on Famine. And if you read X-Men Red, you know she frickin' seed Famine. And she is screaming, there will be no more death. And they're like, there was billions of calculations and it always ended with Cyclops. None of them ever considered that Storm would be the last mutant standing. So Storm's like, hello brother, I missed you. And Cyclops is like, same here, the floor is yours. And her electricity is not just affecting the one in space, but it's also going through all the other ones in Washington, D.C. and New York. So obviously Magneto recognizes that this is Storm's work, and he goes to Polaris and goes, electricity and magnetism, they go hand in hand, and then they start going to work on Nimrod. So Storm's heart is still in the right place, and she's trying to pretty much plead with Nimrod to pretty much tell him to just give up. And Nimrod's like, nah, there ain't gonna be no giving up here. So he tries to hit her with a blast, and then Cyclops hits it with an optic blast and goes, hey, you big dumb machines, he's trying to give you an out. So the Nimrod swings on her, Storm gets out the way, takes the lightning like they're like knives and pretty much cuts into Nimrod. Cyclops hits him with an optic blast in the same spot and pretty much goes, there goes the crack. And then Storm sends all kinds of lightning straight through that crack. So Storm sent so much lightning through the one in space that the one in New York is pretty much experiencing the same damn thing. So the Sync sees it and goes, that's Storm. Might as well go ahead and do the same thing. So he starts producing all kinds of lightning. Magneto is pretty much producing a negative magnetic field. Polaris is producing a positive magnetic field. So this Nimrod, yeah, he's about to have a bad day. So now there is so much lightning being produced by Storm and now Sync that even the Nimrods that are being hidden for later use are being affected by this. And Nimrod is still trying to talk shit. He's like, you vermin, you will follow me into, and then he starts talking to ones and zeros, breaking this dude down to his programming. So Nimrod is pretty much done. Like he's KO'd. And Storm's like, if you see yourself wandering back to life, maybe you should pick a different path. So Monet brings Omega Sentinel. She's still chanting so much death. I'm so sorry. So then Cyclops is pretty much like, hey, look, Quina let me know what the hell went down and you need to take advantage of the second chance. And Omega Sentinel's like, call me Karima. So Wolverine's face is healed up, but his arm looks horrible. So the Cyclops like, we need to leave now because this place is about to blow. And then Manifold's pretty much like, universe, I've asked you for a lot. I need to ask for a lot more. We need to get out of here. And they did, just in the nick of time. So in New York, we got Sentinels falling out the sky, and Sync's like, I'm gonna take that as a sign that this is over. So Professor Xavier is still being held in the Orchis facility. He knows what just happened and he's proud of his X-Men, but the Kitty Pryde kicks the shit out of this door where I guess Professor's being held at. Her and Ms. Marvel are looking for Professor Xavier to pretty much take care of him. They're looking around, they're like, he's not here, so then they leave. And Professor Xavier is pretty much like, I've always had the ability to pretty much make people see what they want to see or make them not see what I want. So the Manifold's like, there's something wrong with my teleportation. We're not where we're supposed to be. And he's like, bloody hell. And then we see it's Latuca. And Latuca is pretty much hiding all the X-Men from Enigma. Like, we really need to sit down and discuss how powerful Latuca is. Like, I know she comes from Morocco, and Morocco, they're all like Omega level mutants, but Latuca is beyond Omega level. Like, we really need to have a discussion on how powerful Latuca is, because if she can hide them from Enigma, then she is extremely powerful. And Latuca pretty much goes to Scott and is like, now that you're here with your heart, the universe was headed in a place that it wasn't going to come back from, but now that you're here, it might have a shot. So the Manifold gets everybody to Krakoa, and then Storm's like, by the goddess. And we see it's Apocalypse. And he pretty much was able to save Krakoa, and the island, the Pacific side of Krakoa, is fine and is actually flourishing. So now that has me wondering what the hell is going to happen to Krakoa, because if you listen to solicits, and I don't listen to solicits, I just watch other YouTubers and they talk about the solicits, they're pretty much talking about all the other books. None of them take place on Krakoa. So what are they going to do with Krakoa? Please let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen. So on the last page, we see Scott, and he's talking to Jean in his head. Well, he hopes he's talking to Jean in his head. And he's like, Latuca said that my heart will save us all. But I gave my heart to you, Jean, so you need to bring the love. And when you bring the love, bring that Phoenix Fire with you. So we got 2 more books, people. We got Rise of the Power of X #5, and we got X-Men 700, or X-Men #35. You guys excited about this? Are you ready to see the end? Are you ready for a new beginning? Please let me know in the comments.